All right, Song of Solomon, and we're continuing this study to help our marriages, okay? And this is the book, again, if you're married, this book is for you. If you're planning on getting married, this book is for you. If you're single and you desire to get married, this book is for you. Okay, so it's a romance book of the Bible, and it's definitely going to strengthen your marriage. I personally believe it's a good practice to read this together with your wife. Husbands, to read this with your wife, to read it with your spouse, read it together, and just spark some of the romance back into your marriage. Now look at verse number 10 in chapter 2. It says, "My beloved spake and said unto me, Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away." The title for the sermon tonight is, Rise Up, My Love. Rise up, my love. It says, and come away. Hey, they want to spend time together. Okay, and that's hopefully what your marriage feels like the feelings, the desires that you have. I hope that you desire to spend time with your spouse and not to spend time away from your spouse. Okay, and if you're spending time, if you feel like I'm going to spend time away from my spouse, well, this is the book for you. Okay, and look, I'm sure as we go through this chapter by chapter, there are going to be things that you will realize in your marriage that it's lacking. Okay, and I don't want you to give up. I don't want you to say, "Oh, then my marriage sucks. My spouse sucks. What's the point of it?" Not just like anything in life. Okay. When we preach in the Bible, there are areas in our life that we need to fix, that we need to improve. So be it. That's what marriage is. No one's perfect. No one's got this wonderful, amazing, perfect marriage without any problems. I've never met that couple in my life. Okay. But this book is for us so we can make those improvements, so we can be a little bit more like the marriage that Jesus Christ would have us to have. So let's start there in verse number 1. Now, as I sort of mentioned last week, we need to understand when there are times when the wife is speaking, there are times when the husband is speaking, and we need to be able to identify this. Sometimes it's not clear, but many times, most of the book, it is pretty clear who is speaking between the husband and the wife. But in verse number 1, it says, I want you to think about who's speaking here. The voice says, "I am the rose of Sharon." So someone is saying, "I am the rose." Okay? Now, do you think that could be the wife or the husband? Just Tom. If a married spouse is saying, "I'm the rose," does that sound like the husband or the wife? Sounds like a wife, okay? And then it says, "And the lily of the valleys." Okay, the lily is another flower. Okay, again, a husband or wife. You'd think, okay, that sounds like the wife, right? But just in case you need confirmation, you get verse number 2. "As the lily among thorns," so there's a lily amongst a whole bunch of thorns, "so is my love among the daughters." Okay, so daughters is the women, okay? And so it's very clear here that the lily is the feminine, right? The lily is the wife. And when it says here, "as the lily among thorns," when I think of my wife, Christina, I also think of her as the lily, right? And all the other women are the thorns, okay? All the other women at church, women outside of church, women that I might work with, okay? My neighbors that are ladies out there, they're all thorns, okay? And have you ever been pricked by a thorn? Have you ever gone gardening, you stuck your hand in? Have you ever been pricked? Look, it doesn't feel nice, does it? It might very well draw blood. It's not good for you. And husbands, once you're married, every other woman is harmful to your life, is harmful to your relationship, okay? You need to have the right boundaries with other women. Once you set your heart on one person, that's my lily, that's the rose, and amongst all the other daughters of Australia, around the world, they're all thorns, okay? So I'm not going to approach unto them. I'm not going to make a move. I'm not going to try to find them attractive. I'm not going to try to build a very close relationship with these other daughters because it's going to hurt my life. It's going to hurt my marriage if I intermingle with them on a personal level. Now, if you can come, keep your finger there and come with me to Proverbs chapter 5. Come with me to Proverbs chapter 5 and verse number 1. Proverbs chapter 5 and verse number 1. I've got no problem for every other man in this church to think of my wife as a thorn. Good. Think of her as a thorn. I like that. Okay? I've got no problem whatsoever. But in my eyes, she's my lily. In my eyes, she's my rose of Sharon, okay? And, even though we begin with this how other women are harmful to you, I want you to notice what it says in Proverbs chapter 5, because, and before I read this, I've worked in an environment where there's a lot of women, Okay, I've worked in an environment where I worked for a call center. Okay, and I didn't work in the call center, but I managed a call center. And usually call center environments are going to have mostly women. All right, and my HR manager, my human resource manager, he's not a saved man. He said to me, look, when you call a woman into your office to talk to her about work, whatever, make sure your windows, because we had blinds, make sure you get rid of the blinds, make sure you leave the windows clear so anybody can see what's happening in the office. Okay, that you won't be falsely accused, that she won't say you did something and it's not true. For your protection, because even though I don't believe you do anything like that, but for your protection, just make sure that when you're one-on-one with another woman, that it's very obvious that nothing is going on, And the reason he said that is because there is so much adultery that takes place at work. Where the man is away from his wife for a good 8, 10, 12 hours, and you might spend a lot of time working with other women, where you do have a working relationship, but that can spill over to an emotional relationship, okay? And then maybe a physical relationship and what have you, and it can be a very damaging thing. And look, even when you're interacting with other people, it may not seem like thorns at the beginning, right? Like when you see a rose, that looks amazing. That rose looks wonderful. But when you go and you put your hands on that rose, then the thorns stick in, okay? Then you have the hurt. And so you got Proverbs chapter 5 and verse number 1, which says, my son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, that thy lips may keep knowledge. Look at verse number 3. For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb. A strange woman is referring to a woman who's not your wife. Okay? Her lips drop as a honeycomb. She seems nice. It seems wonderful maybe. Okay? And so what I'm trying to say is it may not look like thorns to begin with. It may look like honey. Okay? But it says, her mouth is smoother than oil. But look at verse number 4. But her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Look, if you enter into a relationship with another woman, men, it says that her end is bitter, wormwood. You're going to hurt your life. You're going to hurt your marriage. You're going to ruin your testimony. It's as sharp as a two-edged sword. It's like going to war and being stabbed, by a sword. You're going to be bleeding. It's going to hurt your life. It can be very damaging. And so we have this warning. Once you're married, that's your partner for life. That's who you set your eyes on. That's the rose. That's the lily. Every other daughter is a thorn. Every other woman is, it's dangerous grounds. And I want to make it very clear, as a pastor, I do not have private consultation with women. Okay? If a lady wants to talk to me, your husband can be present, or we just talk in public amongst, where everyone else can see us in church. I do not want to have any one-on-one interaction with a woman who is not my wife. Okay? Let's continue then, verse number 3. Back to Song of Solomon chapter 2. Back to Song of Solomon chapter 2 and verse number 3. Verse number 3. Now, if that's the women there, look at verse number 3. It says, as the apple tree among the trees of the wood. Now, when you think of the apple tree, does that sound like the wife, or does that sound like the husband? Brother Michael, the apple tree. What do you reckon? The husband, right? It's a tree is something that is larger, something that is stronger, right? Something that you can find shade under. He says, as the apple tree. So the woman was the rose and the lilies, but the husband, he's the apple tree. Okay, look at this. As the apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons. All right, so the same thing. When the woman looks at her husband, she says, look, there's many trees, but there's only one tree that I'm going to eat of. There's only one tree that I'm going to enjoy. There's only one tree that I'm going to pluck those apples from and eat from. And again, they're speaking about the wife having her eyes on her husband alone. It says, look at this. Look, it continues in verse number 3. I sat down under his shadow, right, with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. So you notice that the wife finds comfort, like shade, protection under the apple tree, under her husband. And husbands, it's our job, it's our responsibility to give our wives stability. It's our jobs to give our wife a roof over their head, to provide for her needs. And speaking of the fruits, men, we ought to be the breadwinners. We ought to be the ones going out there laboring hard. We're built differently. We're built to work. We're built to labor. Obviously, generally speaking, men are stronger than women, okay? Because you're built to work. And she's there enjoying the apples that he provides. Here's the provider. Here's the one providing her shelter. Now, before we can continue in verse number 4, I want you to see the difference between the rose and the lily. Now, look, if a rose fell off was cut off the stem and it fell on the apple tree, do you think there'll be any damage to the apple tree? No. But what if the apple tree fell down on the lilies and the rose? Will that destroy the rose and the lilies? Obviously, men, again, we're just speaking about the power of a man. Okay, and, it is never right, okay, for the husband to raise his fist against his wife. Men, you're overpowered. It's not right. If you're having marital problems, you've got to sort it out. Look, if you're having marital problems, read Song of Solomon. That's the whole point of that book, to fix our marriages. Let it never get to a point where you are so angered, especially the men, because you are more powerful. And it's not right for women to strike at the men either, don't get me wrong. But it's very clear that the man can do a lot more damage to a woman than vice versa. Now, let's drop down to verse number 16 very quickly. Again, proving the point when it says here that the lilies are the woman, verse number 16. My beloved is mine and I am his. He feedeth among the lilies. So he feeds amongst the lilies. And again, this is just using, poetic language, speaking of physical intimacy between a husband and a wife. Okay? Now, if you've got your hymnals, you can do this if you like. Come with me to hymn number 240. Hymn number 240. And again, the reason I just pointed out the obvious is because there are hymns that we don't sing. Okay? There are some hymns that are sung in many Baptist churches even. Okay? Independent Baptist churches. Like hymn number 240. Hymn number 240 is called The Lily of the Valley. The lily of the valley. You say, the lily we saw in Song of Solomon is the wife. True. And look at the words here. In fact, I kind of like the song. I kind of like the tune. But it says here, I have found a friend in Jesus. I have found a friend in Jesus. He's everything to me. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. Okay, speaking about Jesus. The lily of the valley. Jesus, the lily of the valley? The feminine? The wife? No. That's not what the scriptures are speaking about. The lily of the valley is the wife. And brethren, the reason we don't sing the lily of the valley, I kind of like the tune. I can sing it to you, but this is a hymn that can't be fixed. It's called the lily of the valley. Okay, you just can't fix this one. Some of the hymns might have some issues, and you might want to change around some words, make it better. But this one's a write-off. Okay, and look, why do we sing it? Because I think people don't read the Song of Solomon. It's kind of like, well, that's not a book that you ought to be preaching from. I don't think I've really heard. Again, I'm thinking back to my life, and I've been going to church, before I became pastor. Honestly, pretty much all the years I became pastor, 37 years, I was going to church. I don't think I've ever heard a sermon from Song of Solomon. And then we're singing about Song of Solomon, and they're getting all messed up. They're calling Jesus the wife. No, the lily of the valley very clearly in Song of Solomon is, the wife. Okay? And so that's a hymn, by the way, just in case you didn't know. Okay? That's a hymn we don't sing here at New Life Baptist Church. And if you can, come with me to another passage in the New Testament. 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse number 5. Look again, there's a major reason why the wife is called the rose and the lilies, and the man's the apple tree. Okay, again, we're built differently, men and women. we think differently. We're wired differently. We express emotions differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, God made us so we can be compatible, that we can be one flesh. You know, man needs a woman and woman needs a man. This is how God's created things to be. You know, as much as I enjoy having a coffee with some of the men sometimes, talking about Bible, talking about life, I'm glad I get to go home to my wife. I don't want to hang around a dude every day of my life. I want to be with my wife. And we have 1 Peter chapter 3, verse number 5. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse number 5. It says, "For after this manner in the old time, the holy women also, who trusted in God, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands." Look, I know it's not popular today. I know the feminist movement has, disrupts God's word. The feminist movement hates God's word, okay? But it's very clear here that wives are to be in subjection to their own husbands. I'm being, I'm being set back in life. No. You're enjoying the shadow of the apple tree. You're being provided for. You can take of the fruit and eat of it. It's for your protection. It's for your safety. It's for your provision. It's not about holding women back. It's about men going to work and laboring and doing what God's created them to do and to be the leader so that you can then work hard, provide for your wife, provide for her needs, and that she would be in subjection to the one that is doing that for her. For her. That's the whole point. Like, if I didn't have a wife, I'd have no desire, I think, to just get out there and labor hard, to work by the sweat of your brow. No, I've got to look after the lily. I've got to look after the rose that God has given me. Let's continue to verse number 6. Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham. Oh, obeyed. Obey my husband. Like, it was common that marriage vows for the wife, for the bride, to say, to love, honor, and obey. To love, honor, and obey. One of my vows, What a beautiful vow to make. To say, I'll be in subjection to you. I'm no longer under subjection of my father. I'm willing to be put under subjection of this new man who would become my husband. It says, whose daughters are ye are, as long as ye do well. This is doing well according to God. A wife being in submission to her husband is doing well. And I'm not afraid with any amazement. You say, what about the men? What about the husbands? Well, look at verse number 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge. Look at this. Giving honor unto the wife. It's not mistreating the wife. It's not looking down at the wife. It's honoring the wife. Men, we've got to work to honor our wives. We provide, we pay the bills to honor our wives. We come home and we thank her for her labor and the raising of the children or the cooking of the meal or the cleaning of the house, and we honor them and say, look, you've done well, my wife. Honor, you lift her up. Look, as unto the weaker vessel. There's a reason why my wife brings jars to me. Can you open this pasta jar? And I'm like, crack, easy, right? Boom, done. Because they are the weaker vessel. I don't want a wife with bulging muscles who's stronger than me that I've got to go to, can you open this jar, please, honey? Like, it feels good. Like, she can't open it? Okay, bang, done. There you go. Is it because I worked out in the gym? Is it because I'm there 5 days a week at the gym? No. It's just, that's our bodies. That's just our genetics. It's our DNA. We're just naturally stronger. Okay? Weaker is not talking about inferior. It's just talking about the difference between the strength of a man to the woman. And then look at verse, as it continues. This is really amazing. The next phrase is really amazing. As being heirs together of the grace of life. We're heirs of the life that God has given us. Once we enter into marriage, God's given us this married life, and we inherit this life together. Okay, marriage ought not to be, my husband's doing this, and I'm doing that, and we just live these completely separate lives. No, we're heirs together. We ought to be sharing this together. That your prayers be not hindered. You know what they're saying here? Like, obviously, we want to go to God and we want to pray and we bring our supplications. But wives, if you're not in subjection to your husbands, your prayers are going to be hindered. And husbands, if you don't give honor to your wife, your prayers are going to be hindered. Look, I want to have a happy life. I want my prayers to be answered. I want God to hear my prayers all the time. Well, as a husband, I've got to give honor to my wife. I've got to make sure I provide for her needs. Back to Song of Solomon, chapter 2, and verse number 4. Song of Solomon, chapter 2, and verse number 4. Verse number 4 says, He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. So the husband takes his wife out to a feast, like a banquet. A banquet is a big meal, right? You share amongst friends and people that you know and that you love, right? Maybe a big Christmas lunch, all right? And what are they celebrating? It says, his banner over me was love. Hey, amongst all his family and his friends, he's declaring his love toward me. Wow. Husbands, are you doing that? Do you tell your friends, do you tell your family, I love my wife. She deserves my love. Man, I'm lucky to have, I'm blessed to have her. Do we make those public declarations of love toward our wife? We ought to. We ought to. Then she says in verse number 5, stay me with flagons. Flagons are jugs, okay? Comfort me with apples, because he's the apple tree. And then she says, for I am sick of love. Flagons, big jug. Okay, she's drinking the apple juice, right? She's taking the apples and, she's drinking the juice that he's provided. And then she says, I am sick of love. That's how we would say, I'm love sick. Now, for the wives, are you love sick right now for your husbands? I tell you now, because I've not been with my wife for 2 weeks. I feel love sick right now. Like, I miss her. I miss my wife a lot. You know, when I don't have her, because she's down in Sydney, right? I'm having a rest, having a little holiday with her mum down there in Sydney. And I miss her a lot. Like, I really miss her. You know, the laundry's piling up. Okay, my legs are a little bit tired from being up on my feet, doing the cooking and trying to do things. All right. And we've been spending a bit of money fixing up the house. I was going to say what we've done, but I'll let it to be a surprise when she gets back. Okay, in case she's hearing it. But, you know, I miss her. And I remember being lovesick. I remember the first time I went out with Christina on a date. And we went for lunch and we got Pizza Hut. You know, the little pizzas that you can have. And I picked up my first slice and I couldn't eat. I can't eat. You know, the butterflies in your stomach, nerves. I'm like, I think I may have eaten like half a slice, very slowly, but I just couldn't eat. All right? And then we went to Chile. You know how my parents are from Chile. We went to Chile. And my dad's, I don't remember this very clearly because I guess I was lovesick, but my dad said, all you thought about every single day was Christina. Like you didn't even care about meeting the family. You didn't care about going anywhere. You didn't care about anything at all, right? Except, emailing back there. All we had was emails, right? Emailing Christina back and forth. Maybe, I can't remember exactly, but maybe that's what happened. But you can see, look, we often associate being lovesick with the dating game, you know, those early periods. But this is a married couple, and they're still lovesick. They're still lovesick for each other, okay? And we need to bring this back. You know, we need to bring these emotions. We might feel like men, like, oh, I'm a man, I shouldn't feel that. Yeah, look, it's fine. You know, it's beautiful even. It's godly, it's biblical. And it's here for a reason. I hope my wife is lovesick for me. I'll find out when I get there tomorrow. Verse number 6. It says, his left hand is under my head. So left hand, her head's resting on his left hand, and his right hand doth embrace me. So what's he doing? He's embracing his wife, close by, okay? There's physical affection, all right? And you know, we need to have this in our marriage. You know, hold your wife. You know, lift her, carry her if you can. I don't know, just embrace her. Show her that she's valued, that you protect her. You want to hold her. These are good things to have in your marriage. Verse number 7. Now the wife speaking. I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. So now she's talking to her friends, the daughters of Jerusalem. By the roes and by the hinds of the field, speaking of deers, that ye stir not up, nor awake my love till he please. So we find here that the husband is having a snooze. He's having a rest. He's having a sleep. Okay? Now, I assume he's labored hard. He's been the provider. He's gone to work. He needs a little break. And, sometimes men, we get exhausted at work, don't we? We're there 8 hours, 10 hours. We come home. And look, and I'm saying to the wives, and look, we're going to look at this shortly. There are times I experience, I don't work a 9-to-5 job like I used to, Monday to Friday like I used to before. But I know there were times when I would just come home and I'd just be exhausted, just tired. And I just want to rest. But there are other times that I'm not so tired and I want to do something. I want to spend time with my wife. And we'll see both of these elements play out in this chapter. But in this scenario, he's resting. Maybe he's having a good sleep, maybe sleeping in. Maybe he's having a midday power nap, right? But she lets him rest. Okay, because if he's going to be the provider, if he's going to be working hard, he needs to recharge his batteries. He needs to be re-energized. And she said, look, let's not wake him up. Let's let him have the rest because he's been laboring hard. He's not a lazy man. He's been out there. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. All right? And wives, if your husband comes home and he's tired, try to have a meal ready for him. Have a change of clothes ready for him. So he can just come home and he can just have a little rest if that's what he needs at that moment in time. Okay? There's nothing wrong with this at all. Verse number 8. The voice of my beloved. So let me just double check. Yeah, this is the wife. The wife is speaking. Yeah. All right. The voice of my beloved. So she's hearing the voice of her husband. Behold, he cometh leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. We'll have a look at what this is about. But again, this is essentially that he's been away from the home, okay? And he's on his way back home. And he's calling out to his wife. So she hears the voice of her beloved. And, I guess she looks out. Again, this is all poetic language, right? This is a song. Okay, I don't think this is happening literally, but it's a song. I want you to understand, right? And so you've got all that expressive language coming in here. But think of the idea, when we had a man who was resting, but now think of the idea, a man who's been working all day and he can't wait to see his wife. Okay? And so she hears his voice, he's leaping, he's skipping on the mountains. So like he's making his way home, and there's a mountain in the way. There's a hill in the way. And he's like, I'm going to run up as fast as I can. Right? He's leaping, he's in a rush. He's in a hurry to get home. Like the mountain's not stopping him. Okay, so he gets up on a high hill, an elevated position. And then verse number 9, my beloved is like a roe or a young hart. Behold, he standeth behind our wall. So he gets to the house. Okay, he's standing outside. Right? She's inside the house. He says, he looketh forth at the windows. He starts looking at the windows. Before he even gets home, right? He just got to the house. He's like, where's my wife? Right? He's looking at the windows. And then it says, showing himself through the lattice. That's the curtains, right? She can see him through the curtains. And he's looking for his wife. Like, this is the different scenario. He can't wait. He got home. Where's my wife? Right? He's calling out to her. He's skipping. He's in a rush. Now, he was out. Where was the wife? She was at home. Like, he knew. He didn't have to go, oh, when my wife is coming back from work. Because I need her to open my can of pasta. He goes, no, she's at home. She's making the pasta. Right? Or what have you, right? She's at home. And just very quickly, I'll read to you. You don't need to turn there. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse number 14. I know the world says this is old-fashioned, but it's the wisdom of God. Okay, 1 Timothy 5:14 says, I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. And so, look, the will of God for younger women is to get married, to bear children, to guide the house. To guide. Look, I don't tell my wife. Look, when it comes to running the household affairs, she's got full control over that. I don't tell her anything. That's her job to guide. I don't even ask her what to cook. I'll just leave that in her hands. She's the one guiding. I'll let her take control of that. Again, this idea that, oh man, men just want to control women. I have no desire to control my wife. I want to control my family when there's decisions to make, when I need to be the head and make certain calls and shots. But you know what? When it comes to running the house and raising the children and educating the children, my wife is in control of that. Does she sometimes ask me, hey, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? Of course she does. Just like I would ask her when I'm making a big decision for the family. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? Okay? Because what do we say so earlier? We're heirs of life together. We're here sharing this together. But it's her responsibility to guide the house. It's my responsibility to make sure that everything she needs is provided for. But this guy, he can't wait. Where's my wife? Look, when we keep going, he doesn't even go inside the house. And why doesn't he go inside the house? Because it says in verse number 10, my beloved spake and said unto me, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. He says, honey, let's go out. He's not like, hey, let's just hang around in the house all day, every single day. He knows she's been at home. He knows she's been there all day, and she probably wants to get out. He knows that she probably wants some adult company. Like with me looking after the kids, I want some adult company now. I understand where my wife is coming from. When you come home and your wife wants to talk, and you can, talk. I've been talking all day at work. Yeah, because she wants adult company. And he knows that. So he goes, hey, honey, he doesn't come inside. Rise up, let's go out, let's enjoy each other. Let's have some fun. Let's go on a date. That's what he's looking forward to, right? A day out with his wife. I love how it says, rise up, my love, my fair one. It means beautiful. Hey, honey, you're beautiful. Come on, let's go. Let's head out there. Let's go out, okay? And I strongly encourage men, I guess because it's your call, it's your decision, right, to take your wife out on a date, like on a regular basis. Not just when you were interested in her, and you're trying to win her love over. It's hard for us. We've got a big family. It's hard to make time. And we've not really made a lot of time recently because of the new baby and all of that. But besides that, we've always tried, my wife and I, to go out on a date once a month. It's essentially the last Friday of the month. We try to make sure, okay, the kids have food. We're going out. Let's just go enjoy each other's company. Let's go and have a chat, right? There's obviously a lot that can take place in a month. So we get, some one-on-one time together. And this is, again, just a great thing to put into your marriage if you don't have it. Go out on a date. Verse number 11. Now, this is what I told you that I believe these next verses here are, well, this verse in particular, I believe this is the key verse to the Song of Solomon, okay? It says, for lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. So it's been raining before, but now it's no longer raining, right? The sun's out, the days are nice, honey, let's go out. All right, we weren't able to go out before, but we can hang out together right now. And what we see here is if winter is past, if the rain is over and gone, it's springtime. And that's the point I was trying to make last week, right? It's springtime. And I do believe the Song of Solomon, the whole point of this book is to encourage us to have a springtime marriage every season, all the time, every day. Obviously, we can't control the seasons, when it comes to the weather, right, and the time of the year, but we can control the season in our marriage. Do we want it to be springtime? Look, they've come out of winter. It sounds like even their marriage had some issues. That it was a cold winter season. But now, hey, the sun's up, the rain is over, it's springtime. Springtime is a time of fertility and growth. It's kind of annoying springtime because my grass keeps growing. Everything grows very quickly. I asked the kids, can you mow the lawn? But next week, the grass is, you got to mow it again, right? You got to mow it more often than you would during winter. But the point is that there's growth, there's fertility, right? There are fruits. You know, there's development. The marriage is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, as it should be. I don't want a winter marriage. I don't want a cold relationship between husband and wife. Don't want an autumn. You know, I don't want an autumn where the leaves are falling off the tree and there's a lack of life. Or don't want a summer where it's hot and hot tempers, arguing, angry at one another. I want a springtime. I think that's the whole point of this book, the springtime marriage. And look what he says in verse number 12. Obviously, in springtime, the flowers appear on the earth, obviously. The time of the singing of birds is come, because the birds begin to nest, right? They try to find a partner and procreate and have little babies. And the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. The turtle there is a turtle dove, okay? And so the birds are singing. The birds are nesting. They're trying to find their partners. They want to have little babies, okay? And that's what springtime represents. The flowers appear on the earth. Okay, it's a beautiful thing. I want your marriages to be beautiful. I want you to enjoy your marriage. You know what? You might have a hard time at work. Oh, what a horrible day at work. But I can come home and it's springtime. That's how it should be. And the Bible says, I'll just read it to you in Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. It's the reason why it says be fruitful. Again, that physical intimacy will obviously automatically bring forth children, right? When God blesses the womb, opens it, and that fruit of the womb is his reward, that's God's very first command that he gives a married couple. He says, look, have a springtime marriage. Adam and Eve, have a springtime marriage. What else happens in springtime? Verse number 13. The fig tree putteth forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grape give a good smell. Oh, I can smell that fruit. My kids were out, Sebastian and Matthias, you guys were out not long ago. What day was it? A few days ago. Found some blackberries, right? On the side, down in Mullaney. Started to eat those berries. Nice, right? And that's how our marriage ought to be. Fruitful, enjoy each other's company, right? Enjoy the fruits that we provide one toward another, physically, of course, and all that. It says here, arise, my love, my fair one, and come away, so that those words get repeated. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. Let's spend time together. Let's get out of the house. Let's go on a holiday. Let's spend time together. Now, obviously, the primary purpose of the book of Song of Solomon is for marriage, right? Husband and wife. But like we've been saying, everything's about Jesus. Whether you see it or not, it's always about Jesus Christ. Okay? And I want you to think about, if you come with me, come with me, keep your finger there, come with me to Matthew 24. Come with me to Matthew 24, please. Matthew 24. Obviously, the disciples asked Jesus in Matthew 24 about the end times, about his coming. And what I'm going to show you here is the husband's action toward his wife in Song of Solomon is Christ's desire to his saints, to his believers. Okay? Think of the words, arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. I don't know if Jesus Christ is going to say those words in that way, okay? But he's going to call us up. We're going to be gathered together with him in the clouds, okay? Just like the husband was climbing the mountain in an exalted position, Jesus Christ is going to be in the clouds. Okay, he's going to be peeking through. Hey, he's not going to come to the earth like the husband did not enter into the house, but he's going to call out, okay? Arise. And in Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now, that's obviously speaking about the coming of Christ. We've been looking at that, in detail as we've been going through the book of Revelation. But notice what it says in verse number 32. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. That's interesting, right? That's interesting. Well, we have the Song of Solomon mentioning the figs. Well, what's the parable of the fig tree? It says, when the branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So if summer is nigh, what season are they in? Springtime. As an illustration, I'm not saying that Christ is coming, well, I guess he could come in the springtime. But anyway, it depends on what side of the world you are, I guess. But my point is, you can see the parallels. Look, they're still in springtime, and as the fig tree starts bringing forth its leaves, and its flowers, of course, and the fig tree the figs they can eat of, it says, verse number 33, so likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. And so in this story, the fig tree, the parable of the fig tree, is speaking about the signs that would come before Christ would return to this earth. Say, what are those signs? Well, if you go back and you can read it at your own time, the beginning of sorrows, the wars and the famines and the pestilences and all the earthquakes and the abomination of desolation, the great tribulation, all those things are there to tell us, hey, Christ is coming soon. And what I love about Song of Solomon is the husband comes and is excited. I love that thought. Because I think, I'm excited to see Christ. Right? I'm excited to see, I'm excited for his coming. I'm excited to be with him forever. I'm excited to get out of this earthly tabernacle, and be with him with new resurrected bodies. But what Song of Solomon shows me is that Christ is excited himself. He's waiting, he's looking forward to the time when he can rapture his believers. And so shall we ever be with the Lord. Come back, we read to Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse number 14. Now, this is a verse that I'm not sure who's speaking. You can make an argument that it's the wife or the husband. I think it's the... Well, let's read it. Verse number 14. O my dove, that art in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs. Now, I believe the dove is representative of the husband here. I could be wrong. Because again, he's come from the mountaintop on his way down. And again, speaking of the dove as though he's elevated, a dove is a flying, the clefts of the rock, it's in an elevated area. It says the secret places of the stairs. So again, it's that elevation, And it says here, let me see thy countenance. So the wife is saying, look, let me see your face. Countenance is your face. Because he hasn't come into the house. She's only heard his voice. She goes, I can't wait to see your face. Let me hear thy voice. For sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely. The argument is that the husband is saying these words because the wife heard his voice earlier. And so now he's saying, let me hear thy voice. Let me hear you in return. Look, whatever way you want to look at it, the point is they want to be together. That's the point of the verse. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to hear your voice. I can't wait to see your face. I hope your marriage is like that. When you're away and you come home, I can't wait to see you. Can't wait to talk to you. You say, Pastor, my life is not like this. It's not. Well, again, don't beat yourself up. Just go, well, if that's not me, if that's not how we feel, well, let's fix this. Look, you know what I've done? When I've had to make a mental shift, it's hard to fix his head. Right? That's why it says, the Bible speaks of the renewing of the mind. Be not conformed to the world. We need to renew this mind. When there's something mentally that I know I'm lacking, like a desire that I know I should have, but I don't have, or whatever, I've just said, God, this is what your word says. This is how I ought to be thinking. This is how I ought to be feeling. God, can you fix it? Lord, if anybody can fix my brain, if anyone can change my mind, it's you. I want it. I see it in the scriptures, Lord, but I can't do it on my own. Can you shift my mind? And I'm telling you, every time I've prayed a prayer like that, God has. Like God has. I'll give you an example. I've used examples before, right? It's a shock to the system when you get married. Because now it's like, oh, it's not just me. I got someone else. And it's a bigger shock to the system when you have kids. Now it's like, now I come last. Like my kids, they're important. I need to make sure they're looked after, right? It's a shock, but and sometimes, it's the transition can be very hard. And I remember going through that process of getting married, and then, at 22, okay, I've got a wife, I've got kids, but I still want to spend time with my friends. I still want to go and kick a ball around. I still want to go play a video game with them or something like that, right? And I was like, but I know that my heart and my mind should be primarily on my wife and my family. I'm not saying that I didn't love them. I just said, look, I didn't have the time, and I had a certain desire to be with my friends. And I didn't have the time. I got to work. I got to spend time with my wife and kids. Nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm enjoying that. But I'm like, when am I going to get time to go with my friends? Because that's what I was used to. And I said, Lord, you have to change my mind. You have to do something in my brain. And I feel like saying 24 to 48 hours, all of a sudden, I had no desire to see my friends. I was like, you know what? If I don't see them, oh well. I had a greater love. Like when I finished work, now I even more so wanted to see my wife. Even more so wanted to spend time with my kids. But I had to go to God and say, God, can you change it? I don't have time for all these desires that I have. I don't have time for it. So I've got to prioritize the main things. Lord, can you change my mind? Can you change my heart? So I don't have these desires for other things. And so I truly believe God can fix and change your mind. And you see what the scriptures say. Yes, Lord, I want that. Please do it for me, Lord. Please change me. And, when we talk about the coming of Christ again, I'll just read to you in Titus chapter 2, verse 13. Looking for that blessed hope and the glorious appearing of the great God and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Look, I'm sure we're all excited for the coming of Christ, aren't we? I'm sure. I can't wait to see him. But then you ought to be feeling that way for your spouse when you don't see them for a while, when you're out working, okay, when you're away for whatever reason. Like that joy, that excitement. I can't wait to see Jesus. How about, hey, I can't wait to see my wife. And for wives, say, I can't wait for my husband to finish work. I hope they let him off early today. I hope he's got, he gets an hour off on Friday or something, right? So we can spend more time together. Now, we saw earlier that we're enjoying the figs and talking about the grapes. Look at verse number 15. It says, take us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. So husband and wife have been enjoying each other's fruit, the physical affection, the love, right? But now we see the foxes get involved, the little foxes, and they're spoiling the vines. I used to think that foxes were just carnivorous. I thought they just ate meat. And I had to look this up, and in fact, they do eat berries and fruits. So the Bible's accurate, okay? But she's saying, look, we've got this vineyard, we're enjoying the grapes, but the little foxes, they creep in. My mother-in-law lives on a bit of, not sure if acreage is the right word, but it's pretty big land. And every time we walk in, like especially later in the evening, she's like, close the gates, because the foxes. And the foxes have come in and they've caused damage and things like that. But notice that these foxes, they're little foxes. This is saying that there are little things in our relationship that irritate one another, that can take away the enjoyment of the fruit and the love and the time that we spend together. I started saying that we all have faults. None of us are perfect. None of us have this perfect marriage, okay? Because we're all sinners. Okay, we're all selfish by default. And we all have bad habits. And you know what? Those bad habits might be very little, but they can be little foxes that destroy your joy for one another. You know, I hate it when people say, this is what I am, this is who I am, and if you love me, you just got to put up with me. Well, why don't you change? I mean, the Bible's not just about salvation. The Bible is primarily about change. Change. You say, I haven't taken my wife out on a date for a long time. Then change. Fix it. Say, honey, we're going out next week. I'm not really looking forward to my husband coming home. Change. Say, God, give me the excitement that I used to have when we were dating. Give me the excitement that we used to have when we first got married. Change your heart. Change your mind. Fix your marriage. Enjoy the figs. Enjoy the grapes. Enjoy each other's company. Don't let the little foxes get in the way. Get those bad habits out of your life. If you love your wife, men, I love her enough to change this bad habit that I've got about myself, and vice versa. I've got this bad habit about me that my husband doesn't like. These little foxes that spoil our enjoyment. I'm going to change that as well. And we can change, but there's always foxes. They're always there. There's always little things that will cause you to be annoyed and get angry one toward another. You know, I'll give you a story. I'll tell you about a little fox that I've got, okay? I come home, take off my shoes, and just leave them laying around. I don't really put them where they should go. It's a little fox, okay? And my wife once said to, I can't remember which lady she was talking to, and they're like, you know what, your husband should just be putting it, and probably so. I probably should take off my shoes and put him in the right place. And my wife said, you know what? I've just decided that's how Kevin is. You know what? I can either get angry about the little fox, or I can just take 5 seconds, pick him up, and put him in the right place. She says, you know what? He loves me, he provides, he works hard, he loves the kids, he's a good husband. Why am I going to allow this little fox to hurt our marriage? And so look, try to change. I should try to change. I'll try. That's my takeaway from the sermon. Okay, put my shoes in the right place. But notice, even when the little foxes are present, my wife says, I'm not going to let that bother me. I'm not going to let that spoil our marriage, because it takes 5 seconds to fix. But getting angry, that can last all day long, can't it? Okay, that can breed bitterness and anger and what have you. Verse number 16. My beloved is mine, and I am his. He feedeth among the lilies. She says, I am his. She says, I belong to him. He owns me. Oh, I can't believe you said that. Yeah, but then she said at the beginning, my beloved is mine. She says, he belongs to me. She says, I own him. We made vows. We promised one to another that we would love each other, that we would be there till death do us part, that I would love and that we would each love and serve one another. Listen, my wife belongs to me, not to some other man. She's not a woman to be commanded by some other man, to be bossed around. And I belong to her. My beloved is mine, she says. He feedeth among the lilies. All right. My beloved is mine. When I go down to Sydney, and I know we're all different, right? I don't care about technology. I don't care about being tracked by Big Brother and what have you. I don't care. Okay? You guys know I go to Sydney every single week. I spend 24 hours every single week away from my wife. Okay? I don't go to Sydney to be away from my wife. I get a flight that will get me there on time, but not too early. I don't want to go so quick because I want to spend time with my wife. And in the mornings, I catch the earliest flight, not because it's the cheapest, I catch the earliest flight because I just can't wait to be back with my wife. I have to get up like 3:30, sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning to catch that earliest flight so I can come home. And even if I come home and I'm tired because I didn't get enough sleep, I sleep a little bit, at least I'm home with my wife. And you know what? I've got the Google tracker on. Okay, and you can share. And I'm not saying this is the book of Kevin Sepulveda, okay? Chapter 1, verse 2. Okay? I turn on my Google tracker and I share, to Christina. She knows my location all the time. Not that she's never asked me to, but I share it because I belong to her. She's going to want to know, where is my husband? And when she, logs in on a Thursday night, oh, my husband's at Blessed Hope Baptist Church. But you know what? She'll always know where I am. Okay? Because I want to give her that security. Even though I'm 24 hours away from you, I'm in another state, I'm in another city, you know exactly where I am at all time. It doesn't bother me at all because I belong to her. All right? Like if I purchased a car, I want to know where that car is. Is it garaged? Is it looked after? Does it have insurance? Is there registration? All right? I belong to her and she belongs to me. Verse number 17. Until the day break and the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, and be thou like a roe or a young hart upon the mountains of Bether. So it says here, basically, as long as the days continue, every single day of our marriage, their passion ought to remain strong. Like the young roe, the young hart leaping upon the mountains. The excitement. They're like, you know what? We're going to make sure they're excited for our marriage every day. From this day forward, it's always going to be fun. It's always going to be exciting. We're always going to have passion for one another. So, brethren, let's make the changes that we need to in our marriage. I want you guys, man, it's till death do us part. It's the partner you're with for the rest of your life. Don't you want to enjoy it? Don't you want it to be springtime all the time? Nice grapes, nice figs, in the relationship. The rain is over and gone, right? It's exciting. Excitement time. I want that for your marriage. I do. And God wants that for your marriage. And I know you want that for your marriage. Man, when you think about just how important marriage is to God, right? On day number 6, Adam, then Eve, married, be fruitful and multiply. Like that's so important in the eyes of God. Children, family, fulfilling our roles, enjoying springtime. Let's honor our Lord God with our marriage. Excited for Jesus Christ to come back, yes. But let's be excited to see our spouse. Yeah? And let's take him out. Let's enjoy each other's company. All right, the title for the sermon was Rise Up, My Love. Song of Solomon, chapter 2. Let's pray.